Hey guys, Prangell Gaming here, and welcome back to Talk the Wall. This is the 12th installment, and before we get into any of your responses, any questions you may have had, I just want to say that this should be the new day of uploading the Talk the Wall. As you're hearing this, I am currently at college, and so what I'll be doing is I'll be making this on the Monday and scheduling it to go up for today. That's what I did when it went up on the Wednesday anyway. I recorded it on the Tuesday and scheduled it for the Wednesday because I'm actually not in Wednesday either. So Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays I'm out, so I have to get this video up for you guys, and I think this is the most suitable day. But if you haven't seen any of the other 11 installments, I would seriously advise you checking them out. There is going to be a link in the description of this video for the last Talk the Wall, and also there is going to be a playlist if you click the I button. There's a lot of things you have missed if you haven't seen any of the others. Now, before we get into it, I do wish for you guys to put a prediction down for the Rochdale game, because I think that could be a really interesting game, and I want to know your guys' opinions how it could go. And also, do feel free, put any ideas of how the team's going, anything you want me to talk about in the comment section of this video, as I will cover it in the next Talk the Wall, and I want a Millwall voice throughout this time. But do bear in mind that I am recording this on the Monday, so if there is any news stories that are actually outdated, then I will cover them next week, and I can only apologise for that. At the time of recording, that was what the story was like. So I'll start with your predictions for the actual Southend United game, and no one got this result right out of the 4 people that predicted the result for this game. I don't think anyone really could have got the right result on predicting this, but Red Army TV went with the result to end 3-2 to Millwall, so very, very close. He could see Millwall struggling in the game as they did in real life. The next person was Harry CD, and he said that Millwall would win 3-0, which would have been an expected result, to be honest, considering where we are in the league table and where Southend were in the table and how they were struggling at that point. But obviously didn't work out in that way, and in the end it just looked a bit too optimistic. Joe Holloway then expected us to win 1-0, so he did expect it to be a pretty hard game for us, but he actually probably couldn't have seen the fact that we would concede 3 goals going into the back of the net. And then finally, It's Hardcore said that he enjoyed the last video and he expected Mill to come away with the 3 points with a 2-1 win. So it would have been a lot closer if he'd actually thought that Southend were gonna actually go and win that game. But I also predicted the score, and I thought that we would win 1-0, and well, I couldn't have been more wrong, to be honest, could I? It was an absolutely terrible prediction by myself. I honestly didn't expect it to go that bad for Millwall. I know that we haven't been performing as well as what we definitely should be, but I really can't really say so much about that Southend game because it gets me annoyed talking about it. There were so many things that went wrong that we are really, really a lot better than that. So let's actually just get into your comments. And the first comment was by Joe Holloway, and he said Renewal won't be able to build. It will just keep delaying the build and no one will want to move there due to the noise. Not to mention our club history. Now, I did cover the Renewal story last week, and I just want to say a few things obviously on what he said. I think it would be very unlikely, definitely, for someone to move in there because I believe they're building houses. I think it'd be really stupid for someone to want to move there because literally it's like living on a building site. You're just going to be literally hearing so much noise on match days. It would not be worth staying there. You would better be off booking a hotel and staying there for the day, or having a nice treat out, because it is going to be so bad for you if you don't like noise, and it is such a ferocious atmosphere that I just can't really see many people wanting to go there unless you support Millwall. And also, in terms of them building it, it's going to be really hard because you can't mess with Millwall fans, otherwise you'll definitely know about it. And I don't really know why they actually got the go-ahead on this. I think it doesn't make any sense. But we'll obviously have to see how it continues, how it goes on, and hopefully we can get that land and Millwall can move it forward and do what we want to do with the land. Then the second person to make a comment was Red Army TV. He praised the series, saying nice video and series, but he also did add that Barnsley had a great 4-0 win. Now, if you wasn't listening to last week's Talk the Wall, then obviously I announced that Red Army TV was a Barnsley fan, so I cover a little bit about Barnsley in this. Not too much because obviously it is a Millwall video, but I will cover just a small section of it. So Adam Hamil was one of the players that got one of the goals in that 4-0 win against Wolves, and not to mention they did score all 4 goals in the final 20 minutes of the match. It just shows how fantastic they've been and how clever they've been with their signings. And I think Millwall need a player like Adam Hamil, someone who can produce magic moments from absolutely nowhere. I just think that Millwall do have creative players, but it's not as creative as Adam Hamil. I think he's sensational, and I think it is definitely something we need. The third comment there was then actually by Joe Holloway, and it was a pretty funny comment, I'm not going to lie. He said that Mahlon Romeo to be the next Dani Alves, and that is quite interesting, I'm not going to lie, because Mahlon Romeo has a lot of potential. I do sincerely think that unfortunately he won't be as good as Dani Alves. You look how good Dani Alves is, it's very, very unlikely he's going to become a Dani Alves-like figure. But I would challenge Mahlon Romeo to prove me otherwise. That would be fantastic if we produced a player that could do that well in their career, especially in defence. And the final comment was by Harry CD, and he said, I'm happy to read that Mahlon Romeo actually laughed at West Ham's bid for him. Now, to be honest, I'm also very happy that that happened, and I've got to say that if he was to be signed by West Ham at the moment, he would be fast-tracked into their first team. They are playing abysmal. I don't know what it is. They do have a pretty good side. Fagouli's one of my favourite players. Payet was amazing last season. So it just must be some sort of defensive issue. But obviously, their loss is everyone's getting to laugh at them. And I will cover the rest of, obviously, Mahlon Romeo's story in the Millwall news later on. So just to let you know with that one. But before we actually get into any Millwall news, I do have to cover what happened in the game that Millwall played. Now, obviously, that was the game against Southend United. We did lose 3-1, and it isn't the best result, I'm not going to lie. It's far from it, to be honest, and it's frustrating to lose to one of our rivals in this league. And there are some positive signs. Mahlon Romeo was pretty good, Ben Thompson was good, but the result just didn't go in our favour, and the balls just dropped to them, and they managed to put them in the back of the net, which is something, ultimately, we just didn't end up doing. Now, Aidan O'Brien did actually get the goal for us, and obviously that goal was assisted by Steve Morrison, and Williams was involved in the attack. People don't really like Williams. I'm getting frustrated with it. He's a fantastic player. Just look at what he does for the club. And if not, then by the end of the season, I will put together everything in an audio clip of how many good things he's done at the season. I'll actually do that to try and make people change their minds. And that assist by Steve Morrison was his third in the league campaign this season. Now it is that time in the podcast where we actually cover the Millwall news, and there's a fair few things here, so it's going to start with the first thing, which is to do with the transfer rumours during this summer's transfer window actually annoyed our striker Lee Gregory. He had to go on Twitter, obviously, to take action by saying that he hadn't handed in his transfer request and he didn't want to go to Rotherham. Now, I've got to say that rumours do really build up and it goes on from there, and Gregory did sign a contract recently, so the media really do make up full stories, and they even surprise the players most of the time. Most of the time the rumours are rumours and should be left until something more concrete is found out about it. For example, say that Messi was rumoured to go to Manchester City. Now, I've heard that rumour so many times, but it's probably not going to happen. So unless he says, you know what, I actually want to go Man City, then there's not really anything concrete until that point. So rumours should be left as rumours. Obviously, it is nice sometimes to hear some fantastic players being linked with your club, but I'd rather not have lies than I just want to hear the truth, to be honest. It's just one of those things. You don't want to hear made up make-believe. You want to hear the actual concrete stuff, and sometimes I think rumours take over the truth sometimes. Then Callum Butcher said that he joined Millwall because he wanted to play as a box-to-box midfielder, and Millwall really gave him the option to play in that favoured role. And another factor that decided to actually help him leave was that Nigel Clough, the manager of Burton, wanted him to play in a false nine, and that is definitely not the best way to get the best out of him. Butcher did also reveal during this week that other clubs were interested in him, but as soon as he heard Millwall, he did everything in his power to make the move happen. His agent didn't even tell him the other clubs that were actually interested in him, because there were quite a few clubs, to be honest, and that does show that he really wanted to play for Millwall, and we want that passion, we want that pride to have players playing in a Millwall shirt, and he definitely has it from the start if he's doing that from there. Now, Aidan O'Brien also said that he was happy to be an auxiliary midfielder for us. This obviously came after the 1-1 draw with Coventry, and he said, I've got to drop back to the deepest side of the midfield, as when the opposition have the ball for a longer period of time, I need to get back and support the rest of my team as much as I can. As the more bodies we have back, the more pressure we can put on the opponent, and obviously maybe get the ball back from there. The Irishman did also say that his main position was the striker, but he can adapt to playing anywhere that the manager wishes him to play. And that type of versatility could be very important in the future. If a player's willing to play anywhere that the manager wants to put him, that is very useful. And O'Brien, he's had a hot and cold season, to be honest. He's doing well, then he's not, then he's doing well, then he's not. So it really is one of those things we just got to find out what happens with him. Hopefully he can have a better season. Last season, score a lot more goals and maybe become one of the main strikers. Now the final story is that thing to do with Mahlon Romeo, and he actually thought that the West Ham link was a joke. Obviously this rumour came from the Sun, saying that West Ham were willing to pay $2 million to take Mahlon off of our hands, and he had a few things to say about this. He says he's never taken notice of any of the rumours in the newspapers as people make them up, and he does wonder where the stories come from and who and why someone would have thought of that rumour in the first place. He did also stress though that he is 100% a Millwall player and he loves his time at the club. After all, he did sign a long-term contract which will see him with the Lions until the summer of 2019, so that does show his commitment in that. And that is all we've got time for today's podcast, unfortunately, but do feel free to put any questions and opinions in the comments section of this video for the next Talk the Wall. However, before I go, don't forget to put the score predictions for the Rochdale game in the comments section, as next week I'll be covering the game and highlighting their good and bad points. And don't forget to tell me your opinions of what happened in that match, because no doubt something will either go really well or really wrong. So like, comment, subscribe, and of course I will see you guys in the next Talk the Wall, which will obviously be next week. Goodbye.